Hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, and we're back. We're back into the swing of things. I'm back from my vacation. Videos are posting even as we speak. We're gonna get into my trip, all the crazy, amazing, wonderful things that we did while on vacation in Hawaii. I'm gonna talk about some of the videos that you can see coming up on the channels soon. We're gonna get to your questions as well. But first, it is time for a reading from our good friend Peter Straub's The Throat. We have been reading this at the beginning of every episode. As I said, it will take us 98 years to actually finish this book, but I think it's well worth the effort. So let's continue where we left off last time. Mr. Schoonhaven sat down. I apologize. Mr. Schoonhaven sat down. The parish priest stood to give a prayer and the dinner was over. All the football and baseball players from St. Ignatius and Holy Sepulchre began to move toward the steps up to the nave. John Ransom asked me if we were supposed to take our plates into the kitchen. No, they'll do it. I nodded toward the weary-looking women, church volunteers, who were now standing in front of the serving tables. They had cooked for us, and most of them had brought beans and macaroni in covered dishes from their own kitchens. How did you hear about this, anyhow? I saw an announcement on our notice board. This can't be much like Brooks Lowood, I said. He smiled. It was okay. I liked it. I liked it fine. We started moving toward the stairs behind the other boys, some of whom were looking suspiciously at him over their shoulders. You know, Tim, I enjoyed playing against you, John Ransom said. He was smiling at me and holding out his hand. I stared stupidly at his hand for a couple of beats before I took it. At Holy Sepulchre, boys never shook hands. Nobody I knew shook hands in this way, socially, unless they were closing a deal on a used car. Don't you love being a lineman, he asked. I laughed and looked up from the spectacle of our joined hands to observe the expressions on the faces of Father Vitali and a few of the women volunteers. It took me a moment to figure out this expression. They were looking at me with interest and respect, a combination so unusual in my experience as to be rare. I understood that neither Father Vitali nor the volunteers had ever had much contact with someone like John Ransom. To them, it looked as if he had come all the way from the east side, just to shake my hand. There you are. Thank you so much, Peter. A Patreon supporter, an award-winning author, a viewer of the channel. Thank you for letting us read from your book, The Throat. But now, oh my Lord, I'm back from vacation. I wish I could say I have come back well-rested and raring to go. I'm definitely raring to go, but the well-rested part, no, not at all. Because when you go to a place like that, we went to Maui, my girlfriend and I, there is just so much to do, and you're basically going all the time. We were getting up very early in the morning, every single morning, and just from dawn to dusk, going. And also there's the 3-hour time difference. It was 3 hours behind the time zone I am in now. And so I'm still just kind of thrown off, trying to catch up on rest and everything. I hope that you guys don't mind if I go into the trip a little bit, because I'm still very excited about it. It's still at the front of my mind. I don't really have any footage to show you yet. I tried to do some vlogging stuff while I was there, but I guess if I'm gonna do vlogging, I need to be a little bit more disciplined about it, because if you go and look at some of these YouTubers who are famous for vlogging, they set things up a little bit. You know, they'll have some B-roll as they approach an area, then they may do something to camera where they're like, hey, we're here, we're gonna do this and this and this. Then they show footage of the actual event occurring, and then maybe they'll do a wrap up to camera. Like, there's a whole pattern, a whole progression. I didn't want to be really obtrusive with the camera. I didn't bring my good camera either. I just had my cell phone camera. It didn't have mics and everything, so the audio's a little iffy, but I didn't want to be shoving it in my girlfriend's face all the time and inserting it into every event as we were going about our business. But I do have quite a bit of footage. I have some really cool footage of snorkeling. Did a lot of snorkeling while we were gone. And I'd like to try to edit together something from all of this footage. Maybe, I don't know if I'm gonna do some breakouts of just snorkeling or certain other events or certain other activities that we did, or if I should try to make some giant supercut of them all together. We'll see, but expect some footage creeping out onto the channel in the coming weeks. it'll probably be a little while because there's a lot of stuff to go through, and I'm just going to be slowly trying to edit it together. But look forward to that. I guess before we get any further, I should mention I'm enjoying a little bit of Dunhill Standard Mixture. This came in that giant box you may have seen me open a few months ago that had basically every Dunhill blend, every discontinued Dunhill blend, and I really felt like having some standard mixture because it had been a long time. So I popped that open, loaded it up, and I've been enjoying it immensely. In my Savinelli Corallo di Mare, beautiful pipe, beautiful blend, enjoying it. Okay, the trip. Now that I think about it, I guess the first thing I should say to you is that something happened on the trip when we were in Hawaii, when we were in Maui. Something rather major happened. My girlfriend is no longer my girlfriend. She's my fiance. Yeah, we are engaged now. It's really big news. I'm very excited. I'm very happy, obviously. I don't normally share too much about my personal life on the channel, and I figured though that obviously I'm gonna be referring to her as my fiance in videos in the future, and so I might as well just let you know that I went to Hawaii and I proposed, and she amazingly said yes. So that was really amazing, and I'm still kind of flabbergasted about the whole thing. I mean, it was something that I think she kind of expected it to a certain extent, so it wasn't a complete surprise to her, but yeah, that was a big deal, and that sort of colored the trip as well, because I had this anticipation that I was going to do it. She may have had some hints that maybe that was going to happen as well. So it was just an amazing setting for that to happen, and it made the whole trip take on a lot more meaning than it would have otherwise. But even without that, it would have been an amazing trip. But altogether, it was pretty fantastic. But I guess I can just sort of go through and tell you a little bit about the things that we did. When we arrived there, it was late at night. We got into Kahului, I believe, is the airport, at around 9:30, and by the time we got to the condo where we were going to be staying, which is owned by someone in my family and someone in my extended family, they've had it since the 70s, and they were nice enough to let us stay there. And we knew it was on the beach, and we knew it was on sort of the southern shore of Maui near Kihei, or in Kihei, but when we were driving there, you can't see anything, and I was actually sort of surprised by how the landscape around there is just, there's not a whole lot going on. Maui is not anywhere near as built up as Oahu is, and even the town of Kihei that we were staying in is pretty small. But even just driving there, you didn't see many lights. It was just kind of dark. You saw little hints of the landscape and you saw the road. And so we got to the condo complex and we got into the condo and we're like, oh, this is nice, this is nice. Then we opened the blinds on the back sliding glass door, looked out, and basically, bam, there was the ocean. And it was literally 20 feet away. There's a little bit of grass. There's like a back porch, or a lanai, as they say in Hawaii, a little bit of grass, and then sand and the waves lapping on the shore. And I am someone, even though I live technically on the shoreline, I live on the coast, I don't really see the ocean very often, like the open ocean. I live in Bellingham, Washington, so we have Bellingham Bay and we have Puget Sound, and then even if you get out into the Sound, there are all these islands everywhere, so you never see this sort of unobstructed view of the open ocean. You never get big surf or anything because it's all sheltered. So I was very excited to see the waves, to hear the waves, to just see this open ocean, and it was still dark, so we couldn't really tell what we were looking at that much, but I was shocked by how close we were. I didn't realize that we were, I knew, I guess intellectually, that we were right on the sand or right on the ocean, but I didn't realize how close we actually were. So the next morning we got up, and you may have seen I started posting some pictures on Instagram now. We have a Stuff and Things Instagram page, instagram.com/StuffandThingsShow. And one of the first pictures I posted was me with like a pineapple standing in front of the ocean. So we were just so thrilled by the setting that we were in. So we ended up jumping in a little bit, playing in the waves. They weren't very big there. They never got very big there, but I'm afraid my fiance at one point did get sort of tumbled head over heels. I felt bad for her. She got very sandy. But that first day we were just sort of relaxing and getting our bearings. We went and got some nice fish at a little restaurant near there. Just sort of exploring Kihei and seeing what we had around. Played in the ocean a bit. But then the next day I wanted to go snorkeling. That was a big thing for me. I was always interested in sort of marine biology and oceanography and stuff when I was a kid. And I really wanted to go snorkeling, and I really wanted to see green sea turtles, and I wanted to see reef sharks. Those were the two main things. So we had heard about this place called Five Graves. I'm sorry, I'm not enjoying my pipe at all. There's this place called Five Graves, which is supposedly a great place to see sea turtles. And we got up at like 5:30, got up because it was pretty windy there all the time, and it's usually more windy after the morning. So usually the calmer times will be very early in the morning. So we wanted to try to catch that. And we drove out to this place, and it was very sort of hidden. There isn't really a parking area or anything, and it's just this little beach access trail that goes by these private homes. And you get out, and there's this rocky outcropping of just, you know, lava rock, volcanic rock, and it looked pretty rough. I had brought a boogie board because I thought, without really ever having snorkeled before, I thought that might be the best thing to do, is float around on a boogie board and snorkel that way. Turned out to be a mistake in this case, but I saw how rough it was, and my fiance didn't really want to get in because it just looked a little too crazy. But I did, and I just was kind of bobbing around, getting battered against the rocks. It was very difficult. The visibility wasn't great, but as I was sort of struggling, paddling around, trying not to get brained against these boulders, I thought I could hear my fiance sort of like I just vaguely heard, and I looked over and I could see her up on the rocks pointing, and at that very moment I also noticed a shape moving in the water, and so I saw my first green sea turtle. It was a big one, and it was sort of getting battered against the rocks too. In fact, I may be able to insert a little footage of that here. Is that cool, or is that cool? I was just so delighted, even though I was getting battered around by the waves and just struggling to stay afloat. Seeing that turtle, and it kept coming closer and closer, and you're not supposed to get too close to the turtles, you're not supposed to harass them, but it just started swimming right at me, so I was trying to get away from it, basically. And then I think I shouted out to my girlfriend, and or my fiance, I'm gonna be doing that a lot probably, and she started pointing out, and they were everywhere. There were turtles all over the place. There were little smaller juvenile ones, there were very, very large adult ones, and I didn't stay in the water too long because it was just too hard there, but I ended up getting up out onto the rocks with her, and you could just see them all over the place. We saw maybe 8 or 9 there. So that was an amazing first snorkel. Even though the conditions weren't great, I knew, okay, I'm gonna be doing this a lot during the trip. And then I think that same day we went to some of the fancy hotels around Wailea. For those of you who don't know, so Maui is like two big nodes kind of stuck together in the middle. There's one volcano on the western side and one volcano on the eastern side. Haleakala is the giant volcano on the eastern side. And then there's sort of this curve of shoreline on the south, and that's where Kihei is. Lahaina is another city. They're the two sort of larger cities, even though they're very small. Lahaina's on the western part, Kihei's on the south, and then there's this giant Haleakala. Wailea Bay, or Wailea area, is sort of on the southern part under Haleakala. And the area on the southern part of the island is mostly pretty arid, almost desert-like, I would say. But then once you get up onto the slopes of Haleakala, and especially on the northern part of the island, and especially on Haleakala on the northern part, it's very much like jungle. It's rainforest. But Wailea is the part under Haleakala to the south where you'll get a lot of the fancier resorts. So we wandered around there and just looked at the hotels and their crazy swimming pools and some of the beaches and stuff. And I'm trying to remember of like the order we did things and trying to tell you things that you may find actually interesting to hear. And like I said, a lot of this stuff I'm going to try to put into video form and post on the channel at some point. But I just hope you'll indulge me because I'm still very excited about the whole thing and we had a great time. But we did, maybe I'll just start listing things we did. We decided I wanted to go see the rainforest and hike in the rainforest. So there's this place on the slopes of Haleakala or up around there called the PPY Trail. We wanted to try that, but to get there, you have to go around the northern part of Haleakala, and there's a town called Hana up there, and then a ways past Hana was this trail. But basically it's 48 miles to get there to Hana, I think, but it took us 2.5 hours by car because the road to Hana, the Hana Highway, is the most insane road you will ever see in your life. Well, at least in the US maybe. It is extremely narrow. It's extremely windy. All these switchbacks, it's going up, you're gaining a bunch of elevation because you're getting up on the slopes of the volcano. The road travels through the densest, craziest tropical vegetation you'll ever see. There are dozens and dozens, I think they said 58 of these single lane bridges, and you can't see if anyone's coming most of the time from the other side. These blind corners, so you just have to like cross your fingers and hope that nobody else is coming on the bridge. There are these sheer drops on the side of the road where you'll just tumble down the side of a volcano if you go off. Like, it was heart in the throat, white knuckle kind of driving. It was kind of fun. If we'd had a better car, we had this Toyota Corolla that we rented that was just the most gutless thing I've ever driven in my life. I really wished I'd had my little Volkswagen, my Rabbit/Golf. That would have been amazing on this road. But it was just like the whole time. But as you start going along this road, you go from the sort of arid desert area down in southern Maui, and then you go north, you go towards Paia, I think is the town, and then you get on the Hana Highway, and the vegetation starts getting more lush and more lush until eventually it's just jungle. There are vines hanging from everything. We went through these crazy, huge bamboo forests, which I was inordinately thrilled about. I don't know why I was so excited about it, but I guess I've always wanted to see a bamboo forest, and it was just so lush and so green and so amazing. But we got to Hana, we stopped there for a minute, and then we went to this state park called Waipanapanapa, or Waipanapa, I think it was Waipanapanapa, where there's a black sand beach and this like blowhole, and there were a bunch of mongoose running around. They had been introduced in the 1800s, I think. But it was very cool, but we realized to get to the trail that we wanted to do the trail, and then get back home, we'd be driving the road to Hana in the dark, and I did not want to do that in the dark, and so we ended up just going back. So we didn't get to do that trail, but later on, a couple days later, we did Io Valley State Monument, and that is a part on the western part of the island. The smaller volcano, I can't remember what that volcano is called, Kahului, maybe, or I can't remember. But it's another kind of lush tropical area, and there's this really cool sort of pinnacle of stone where a decisive battle in Hawaiian history had happened at one point. But it was cool to be able to wander through that. It wasn't quite as thick and as wild as it was on Haleakala, but I still got a little taste of that kind of jungle atmosphere. We went to Lahaina for a night where they were having a sort of festival where they had Hawaiian music and you could wander around, look at all the shops and some of the historic buildings. There were a lot of ties to the old whaling industry, and then there were missionaries who had lived in Lahaina. We toured one of the oldest, I think it was the oldest house in the Hawaiian Islands maybe, or at least in Maui, the house of a missionary who had lived there in the 1800s, early 1800s. And there's just a lot of cool history that I wasn't expecting there. And we saw some surfers in the harbor and just, I don't know, we did some of the normal tourist things, drinking Mai Tais and just wandering around. But one thing, it was super hot there the whole time. It was about 92 degrees every day, which for a Northwestern boy like me is very, very hot. But I guess when you're on vacation, you can sort of tolerate it a little more. And I ended up almost getting used to it while we were there. We managed to avoid getting horribly burnt because we were very religious about sunscreen until maybe a couple days before we were going to leave. We had been snorkeling pretty much every morning, and my fiance, even though she had been hesitant about snorkeling at first, we went into this, there was a beach called Ulua that we had heard about that was a lot more gentle. It actually had a sandy beach, and then the reef there was easier to access. And it was in all ways just calmer and better. So we had gone there, and she came out with me, and she just fell in love with snorkeling too. And we saw a turtle there as well, saw all sorts of cool fish. But then we discovered a place called Maluaka, another beach that I highly recommend because it's kind of near the golf course. If any of you know anything about Maui, you'll be able to look these places up. But it has just a really great beach. And then it has a really cool reef, like just this shelf that gradually goes deeper and deeper, and you can go out a long ways into the reef at varying depths. And we just saw so many cool things. Saw Moorish idols, I saw angelfish, I saw cardinal fish, I saw trumpet fish, needlefish, triggerfish, more turtles there, just all sorts of amazing things. The coral itself is gorgeous to look at. But one of the days we went out there and we just got so caught up in it that we were out for quite a bit too long, I think, and we both ended up with very scorched backs, especially her. I felt really badly for her because I had a little more color because I'm out working in the sun all summer long, but she did not, and we were both rather pale normally. We went to Big Beach, McKenna State Park, where the surf was bigger and we got to sort of get tossed around by the waves. We did a lot. It was an amazing trip. I know sometimes it's not very exciting to hear about someone else's vacation, but it was just so fun. And I hope that some of the footage that I have, I'll be able to edit up and let you guys take a look at it. I think it's gonna be cool. But now I'm back, and you will have noticed that some videos are posting again. We took just 1 week off from both channels, but this last week when I came back, we had a video where all the Stuff and Things Plays videos started posting again. Minecraft and Sekiro, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. So that's going again. And then on Wednesday, we had my review of the Tilly hats that I had. And I did that review before I went to Hawaii. But in Hawaii, I use that khaki colored T5MO hat every day pretty much, and it served me so well. It's such a great hat. So I recommend you check that review out. That posted last Wednesday. On Friday, we had our penultimate episode of Stuff and Things Reads The Stranger. So that will wrap up next Friday. Look forward to that. And then this coming Wednesday, we will have a video where I'm talking about my Castello pipes. I own 4 now, and I just went through each one, what I like about them, and that is worth checking out as well on Wednesday. And then, like I said, I will be posting some of these videos on our trip soonish. So keep posted on that as well. Remember, I now have a Instagram account for Stuff and Things. It is instagram.com/StuffandThingsShow. So if you haven't followed that yet, check it out. I posted some videos from the trip already, and I probably will intersperse some more of those and maybe some little video clips throughout the coming weeks as well. A train is coming. All right, the train has mostly passed, I think, and now it is time for #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like me to answer it on the show, tweet at @SATBradley with the #AskStuffandThings, and I will do my best to answer you on the next Sunday Stuff and Things. Or if you would like to ask me on Patreon and you are a Patreon supporter, you can do that as well. Leave me a comment, a post, whatever, and I will get to your question. First, from Patreon, we have a question from corbynborbyn, or corbynborbyn as he is known. He says, "What pipes did you take on the vacation? I didn't ask about blend because Elizabethan." Well, I didn't actually take any Elizabethan with me because I have a few tins left, but I'm saving those up. I took some pipes. I took my little bent or partially bent Castello billiard in Sea Rock. I love this pipe. Thank you, Gus, very much. And then I also took this Ashton partial bent Rhodesian from Adam. Thank you very much for that as well. Love both of these pipes. The thing is, I didn't use either of them because the condo complex we were at was just completely off limits. You couldn't do anything anywhere there. And then the beach itself was so windy pretty much all the time that it was impossible. Basically, if you tried to have a bowl, it would just explode out of the bowl of the pipe with the wind. So it was not very conducive to enjoying a pipe. So I went an entire week or over a week without having a pipe. So I'm glad to come back and actually enjoy that now. Next from Twitter, we have a question from Tyler at TylerBrubaker20. He says, "Hello, Bradley. Hope you enjoyed Hawaii. Since you've acquired new Castellos, has your rotation changed, and will there be an update video on it?" My rotation, the 12 or 13 pipes that I usually just go through every week, one after another, has changed a little bit because all 4 of those Castellos are in that starting lineup. I did that video, my pipe starting lineup, a while back, and that has changed a bit since that video because all those Castellos are in there now. Pipes get sort of subbed in and out of there every once in a while, but all my Castellos are in there, all my Dunhills are in there, kind of obviously, and then most of the same ones that you've seen, but we may do an update on it eventually. Next, we have a question from Michael Jones at MikeJ2735. Michael says, "I was recently on the Galen Leather website, casually perusing the products. Did you know that your review of the pipe roll is featured on the website? Also, would you ever consider purchasing any pen sleeves cases from the company? Mike." Well, Mike, no, I didn't know that my review of the Galen Leather pipe roll was on their website, but that's totally fine. If you haven't checked out that video review, you can do so. It was the Galen Leather, I can't remember if there was a specific name for the pipe roll or if it was just called a pipe roll. And it was good. I still use it occasionally. I swear that I reviewed a pen case from them. It was like a pen, like maybe a 4 or 5 pen sleeve that zipped up. Didn't I? I'll need to check on my, I can't remember if it's pen, paper, and writing stuff and things playlist, where I have anything about fountain pens or notebooks or paper and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I reviewed one of their pen cases. I know I have one, so hopefully I reviewed it. Next, or actually I guess last, we have a question from Lazy Lazenby Productions at lazy_Lazenby. He says, I think "Aloha, Bradley. Hope your time away was relaxing. I'm considering buying a ceramic tea jar to store bulk blends. Do you have any experience with these? Do they keep tea at the proper moisture level, the same way a mason jar does? Thanks, Spencer." I do not have any experience with a ceramic jar, just based on nothing other than my own suppositions. I would suppose that a mason or a ceramic jar might be more porous than a glass jar, so you may get some moisture leaking out, or the air inside, there may be some interchange with the outside air. I'm not sure about that, actually. That's just kind of me surmising. if anyone has any experience with that, if you have placed a blend in a ceramic jar and tried to make an airtight seal on it, did the blend inside eventually dry out? Let Lazy Lazenby know in the comment section below. But gang, I think that's it for questions this week. Remember, send your questions at SAT Bradley with the hashtag askstuffandthings. I love answering your questions on the show. But now it's time for the very best part of the show, the time where we thank our $25 and up patrons. They are the people who help this show go, and they get a little shout out every week. If you would like to support the channels, you can go to the link in the description below. It is patreon.com/StuffandThingsShow. Thank you for your support. But now we would like to thank Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. We'd also like to thank Derek, Cody Striegler, Nathaniel Hills, Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, C.W. Piperman, Garret, Adam Loveless, Ryan McFadin, corbynborbyn, MDoftheNorth. You'd think reading wouldn't be that hard, but sometimes it is. Robert Venerus, Ryan Stauffer, John M. Parrish, and our good friend Gus, formerly Check Engine, now I think he's I Love Gongs on YouTube. Thank you all very much for your support at the $25 a month level. Next, we have the Maniacs. The people who support the channel at $100 a month. They are entitled to a Skype conversation every 2 months or 3 months? I can't remember. I'll have to look at that tier again. In fact, I'm talking to Peter today. Peter Straub, speaking of him, is one of our Maniac supporters. Thank you so much, Peter. And Bob Magee. Stolid, dependable, wonderful Bob Magee. Thank you all so much for the support. Thank you all so much for being patient with me while I was gone for a week. You know, I agonized over not posting videos for a week, but you guys were all very understanding and very cool. And now we're back. We're back to doing what we normally do, and we have lots of things coming up on the channel. I'm really looking forward to showing you guys some of the footage that I took in Hawaii, so hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. But I gotta go. I gotta edit this, and then I have to go talk to my good friend Peter, or I get to talk to my good friend Peter. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a pleasant Sunday, Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.